Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be solving the October-November 2021 paper 2, variant 2. So if you want the variant 1, I've uploaded it on my channel. Please check it out. Now consider subscribing to my channel and liking these videos in order to support this channel so I can continue to provide you with more solving of the past papers. Now, let's start. Question number 1. All living things can remove toxic materials and other substances that are in excess of requirements. Now, this is the definition of the excretion. If you remember in chapter 1, the classification of living organisms. So we're going to be choosing B because this is exactly the definition of excretion. Number 2, two animals have an identical sequence of amino acids in one of the proteins found in their cells. What does this indicate about these animals? Now, this is the same question from variant 1, and I've explained that they have been eating the same types of food option is incorrect because different foods have different like amino acid sequence, and even if they eat the same food, of course, they don't have a constant level or a constant amount of amino acids, maybe, or so different foods have different amino acids, so this will not work. Now B, they have not been exposed to substance that cause mutation. Now even if they had a mutation, they will not get the same effect of mutation in both of the animals. Like for example, if an animal gets mutation, the other one will be affected in a different way than the other because it's a sudden change in DNA base sequence, and each animal has different DNA base sequence, so this will not work. B, they must be members of the same genus. Now, even if they were members of the same genus, they're distantly related and they are not really closely related. So they are just like distantly related, which means like they are related but not so much. So they're distantly related. And they will not definitely have the same amino acid base sequence. So the only option we have left is D, they share a recent ancestor. That is because if they share an ancestor, they're going to be more closely related than if they had the same genus. So our answer will be D. Now, number 3, the diagram shows some tissues in part of a plant root. The arrows represent the movement of water into and across the plant root tissues. How many different tissues are shown? Now, we know that this part, it is a group of root hair cells. So these are tissues because there are similar cells working to perform a specific function. So this is a tissue over here. This is also a tissue because they are similar cells, and this is also a tissue. So here we have like 3 so far. This is also a tissue, the xylem. They are, even if there's a group of xylem vessels, they're going to be called a tissue, not an organ. So yeah, so they're all going to be tissues, and this also is a tissue, and this one. So we have 4 tissues, which is B. Now, question number 4, the length of a mitochondrion in a photomicrograph is 15 millimeter. The actual length of a mitochondrion is 3. What is the magnification of the photomicrograph? Now, whenever I get a question like that, I draw the I am triangle as I explained in the other video, like that. And the I am triangle actually helps you to identify or know what type of calculations you should make in order to get the magnification or actual length or image size, whatever, depending on the question. So over here, we're going to be using the M, which is standing for magnification. It's going to be equal to image size, which is given in the question, and actual size, which is also given in the question. So the image size over here is actually 15 millimeter, but before you calculate it as 15 millimeter, you have to convert it into this unit so they can both be the same unit. So in order to convert millimeter to this unit, you have to multiply by 1000. If you want to convert centimeter into this unit, you have to multiply by 10,000. So over here we're working with millimeters, so we're just going to do 15,000 divided by 3, and that's going to give you 5,000 if you're going to calculate it on the calculator. Now, question number 5, the diagram shows some cells. We all know that these cells are actually the ciliated cells. that have cilia to waft or move the mucus from the throat. So it's going to be bronchus. And now, number 6, which statement about diffusion is correct? It's A says the process requires energy from respiration. Well, this is incorrect because it's actually a passive process, meaning it doesn't require any energy at all. B, the particles must cross a cell membrane. Now, this is incorrect because it's the net movement of molecules, really, and it doesn't really require a cell membrane in order to pass around. So, this is also incorrect. C, the net movement of particles is up a concentration gradient. Now, this is incorrect because it's actually down a concentration gradient and not up a concentration gradient. Up a concentration gradient is for the active transport, and it's not for the diffusion. So C is incorrect. Now, our only answer is D, which is the process involves the random movement of particles. Now, this is correct. Now 7, the diagrams show the uptake of mineral ions by root hair cells. What type of molecule is labeled X in the diagram? Now they're asking for the type of molecule and not the name. Now the type is actually, this is called the protein carrier, and as we all know from its name, it's from protein. So we're going to be choosing actually C for this question. 8, the bases on one of the strands of a DNA molecule have the sequence shown. What is the corresponding sequence of bases on the other strand? Now we know that A actually pairs with T, and T pairs with A, C pairs with G, and G pairs with C. Now it's not like required for you to know the full names of the A, T, C, and G. This is going to be in the AS level, so don't bother. Now, what we have to know is which letters they pair with. Now, for the A, we have to choose something with T, T. So let's check the options, and it's D. So that's going to be our answer. If you want to make sure the A pairs with the T over here, and the G pairs with the C over here, A, T, C, and G. Number 9, in a photosynthesis experiment, a plant is left in bright sunlight for several hours. A leaf is then removed from the plant and tested for starch using iodine solution, which I have explained in the paper 6 video if you want to know more about it. The diagram shows the leaf from the plant that was used in the experiment, which diagram shows the result of the experiment. Now we know that the green area will turn into blue-black. That's because the green will react with the orange-brown in the iodine and will turn into blue-black, and the white area will be orange-brown. So we're going to be choosing something that is blue-black on the outside and orange-brown in the inside over here. Let's check the key. The iodine solution turns blue-black if it's colored like that, and white if it's orange-brown. So on the outside, we want it to be blue-black, and in the inside, we want it to be white as in the key. So that's exactly C over here. 10. An experiment was carried out to investigate the effect of pH on enzyme action. The graph shows the results. Now, as I told you in the paper 6, you have to always have the independent variable on the x-axis. So over here, the independent variable is the pH. So we're going to be choosing between A and B options. Y-axis is going to be the dependent variable. So our answer will be A for this question. Now 11. 4 test tubes were set up as shown in the diagram. In which test tube is the starch digested the most quickly? That means there will in some of these test tubes they will be digested, but not in the fastest rate. So we need the fastest rate really, which will have maybe provided with the optimum temperature or the optimum pH. So let's just check what is given in the question. Now over here, they're saying that the temperature is 15 because the water bath temperature is 15. So this is not really the optimum compared to the 35, which will have a more optimum temperature and higher frequency of collisions between the enzyme and substrate. So we're going to be actually choosing between the C and D options over here. Now, the starch solution and amylase, they're not boiled like here. They're saying that this amylase is actually boiled, which means it's actually denatured, because when you boil the enzyme, it's going to become denatured, so the active site changes and the substrate will no longer fit into its active site. So our answer over here will be C because it's not boiled. Now 12, two similar leaves are set up in the test tubes as shown. One is exposed to light while the other is kept in the dark. After a few hours, which color would the hydrogen carbonate indicator solution be in each test tube? Now we know if there is respiration, then there will be carbon dioxide released, and if there is photosynthesis, there will be oxygen released. And we know that carbon dioxide is actually acidic gas and oxygen is alkaline gas. So in the hydrogen carbonate indicator, the yellow actually indicates acid and the purple indicates alkaline. So we have to choose yellow for the test tube that has respiration, because it releases carbon dioxide, which is acid, and then we have to choose for the one doing photosynthesis, purple, because it's alkaline gas, oxygen is produced. So this one is actually performing photosynthesis because there is no covering of light over here, and in this one it's actually doing respiration because there is no light. So we're going to be choosing for this one purple, sorry, purple. And this one will be yellow because, as I said, it's respiration. So that's actually option B. 13, the diagram shows the surface view of the epidermis of a leaf. How many guard cells are present? Now, some students will count this as one guard cell, and this will be one guard cell, and this one. This is actually incorrect because we're going to be counting this one, this part, as one guard cell, and then this one as another guard cell. So this brings us, this one is alone two guard cells, and this one is going to be two guard cells. Now this is also another two. Now this is actually six guard cells and not three, so please take care. Now 14, the diagram shows part of the alimentary canal and associated organs. Where does the most water absorption take place? Now we know that the most water absorption actually takes place in the small intestine over here, and this is the large intestine. So we're going to be choosing B. 15, the diagram shows a large food molecule changing into smaller molecules. What is process X? Now, as we can see here, that all the molecules were joined together over here using these bonds, and after process X, they're actually not joined anymore. This is because they're broken down, and the only process over here that breaks down the stuff is digestion. This one doesn't break down. This is actually absorption, and chewing isn't breaking down, it's just like increasing the surface area. This is secretion, of course not, so digestion is the answer. Now 16, the diagram shows a newly planted seedling and the same seedling a few hours after being planted. What is the correct explanation for the change in the appearance of the leaves? Now, as we can see here, it lost its turgor pressure because it actually wilted, and this one over here is the one that wilted. So wilting takes place when there is more water loss than water gain, because if you're going to lose more water, the plant cell is going to lose more water, then it's going to lose its turgor pressure inside the cell. So we're going to be choosing an option where there is more water loss than water gain, therefore the turgor pressure has decreased, and also it becomes flaccid. Now, we're not going to be choosing anything that became turgid over here, so this is not going to be the answer, of course. Transpiration is faster than water uptake by the root hair cells, so its cells have become flaccid. Well, we know that transpiration is actually resulting in water loss because it's the evaporation of water from the spongy basophil cells, so our answer over here will be A. And not C because slower, which means there is more water uptake, so because there is less water loss, so this is incorrect also. Now, 17, translocation is the movement of sucrose and amino acids in the phloem tissue of a plant from source to sink. Which organ can act as a source? Now, a flower can't act as a source because it's the reproductive part of a plant, and it has like the leaf has to be the actual like source because it has the chlorophyll substance and it performs photosynthesis which produces glucose. So flower can't work. Growing shoot tip. Now this is actually a sink, so this will not work. New developing root, this will not work because also it's a sink. Now our only option over here is the storage root. This can act as a source in the spring because there is no photosynthesis up in the leaves, so they will break down their starch and they will release glucose for the growing leaves uh, in the plant. 18. Which component of blood produces antibodies? Now we know that lymphocytes produces antibodies which actually perform destroying the pathogens and also perform some processes that can help with phagocytosis. Question number 19. What do shunt vessels connect? As we all know, the shunt vessels actually connect the arterioles to the venules, so that's going to be our answer, B. Question number 20. Which graph shows how the pressure inside the lungs changes when taking one breath in? Now, when we inhale, the pressure inside the lungs actually increases, and the pressure outside actually decreases. So we're going to be choosing a graph that shows this information. Now we can't choose between this one and this one because it doesn't just show the lungs, it shows other stuff as well. So we can't choose C and D. We're going to be choosing between A and B. Now the pressure in the atmosphere is decreasing, so we're going to be choosing B because inside the lungs it's going to be increasing because as we all know the pressure moves from high concentration to a low concentration. Okay, question number 21. Some features that help to defend the body against pathogens are listed: mucus, skin, stomach acid, and phagocytosis. Which features can prevent pathogens entering the body tissues? Now we know that mucus is a chemical barrier, and also the stomach acid is a chemical barrier. Also the skin is mechanical barrier. Now this one isn't a barrier to anything. This is when the pathogen already entered the body. So the question is asking about features that can prevent pathogens entering the body tissues. Phagocytosis occurs when there is pathogens inside the body. So the pathogens already entered. So we can't be choosing 4, and we will be choosing mucus, skin, and stomach acid. So that's going to be B. Now, stomach acid, the pathogens already entered the body, but they aren't in the body tissues. So that's also a form of barrier to the pathogens. Now, 22, the diagram shows the apparatus used to measure the rate of respiration in germinating seeds. As the seed respires, the bubble of colored water moves along the glass tube. The temperature is increased from 20 to 40. What happens to the movement of the bubble as the temperature increases? Now, for this question, first option is saying the bubble moves more quickly towards the seed at 40 than at 20. Now, let's check if the seed is actually going to be moving towards the germinating seeds or not. Now, here, there is soda lime which absorbs the carbon dioxide. The germinating seeds will actually release like carbon dioxide, and they will need oxygen coming from the atmosphere over here. So they're going to be absorbing, and the bubble of colored water will actually move like this because of the oxygen absorption, and the carbon dioxide is absorbed, so there is no effect of the carbon dioxide. So therefore, the bubble will move like that inside towards the germinating seeds. So A is correct. So that's going to be our answer because it moves more quickly at 40 because there is an optimum temperature for the germinating seeds, and 20 will work, but it is not as fast as the 40. and it's also moving towards the germinating state, so that's going to be our answer. 23. Which statement about lactic acid is correct? Lactic acid is a product of anaerobic respiration in yeast. Well, this is incorrect. It's actually because of the muscles and not of the yeast. The yeast actually produces ethanol or alcohol. So lactic acid build up in the tissues can lead to an oxygen debt. Well, this is correct. So our answer will be B for this question. 24. The diagram shows a mammalian kidney. What are areas X, Y, and Z? Now X is actually the cortex, and Z is actually the medulla, and Y is actually the ureter. So we're going to be choosing an option where all of these are present in the right places. So that is exactly option B. 25. The structure listed are part of the nervous system. In a reflex arc, which structures are connected to the motor neuron by synapses? Now, for this question, it's going to be the effector and the relay neuron, because as we know, it actually goes from receptor and into the receptor, the sensory, and then after the sensory there is relay, and then there is the motor, and there is also the effector. So what is in between the motor is actually the relay and the effector. So that's going to be C, 2, and 4. 26. Which process is a response of the body that is part of a negative feedback process? Release of insulin in response to low blood glucose concentration. Well, this is incorrect because insulin is actually released when there is high blood glucose concentration, so that's not going to work. Vasoconstriction in response to an increase in blood temperature. Actually, vasodilation takes place and not vasoconstriction, so that's incorrect as well. Synthesis of glycogen in response to an increase in blood glucose concentration. Well, this is absolutely correct, so that's going to be C for our answer. Sweating in response to a decrease in blood temperature. Now, this is incorrect. It is when there is a high blood temperature and not low blood temperature. 27. Which row shows the pupil reflex in bright light? Now we know that in bright light, the circular muscles contract and the radial muscles actually relax. So that brings us to a smaller pupil size to decrease the amount of light entering the retina. So we're going to be choosing an option with all of these. Now we're going to be choosing the circular muscle contracting, radial muscle relaxing, and the size of the pupil becoming smaller, so that's going to be B. Now 28, a seed is placed and grown on a rotating disc as shown. Which diagram shows the appearance of the seedling shoot after 7 days? Now we know that if it's constantly rotating, then the auxin that is on the leaf, it's going to be evenly distributed over here because the light is coming from all the sides like that. So as a result, the plant will grow upward, unlike it will grow like that, for example, like bent, if there is the auxin not evenly distributed as a result of the light coming, for example, from one direction. So the answer should be a plant that is growing like upwards and evenly distributed without any bending. So that's exactly A. Now 29, commercial plant growers use asexual reproduction to grow coffee plants which produce crops of coffee beans. What is a disadvantage of asexual reproduction? Now, asexual reproduction results in genetically identical cells, and it is actually, there is no variation at all because there is no meiosis, and it's only one parent. So let's see the options over here. The options say the coffee beans produced by all of the plants are identical. Now, um, this is not a disadvantage. This is actually an advantage for the farmer. So they need a disadvantage actually. Two parent plants are needed. This is incorrect. And the one parent plant is needed. This is actually an advantage for the farmer, not a disadvantage. Now, all the plants are equally susceptible to the same disease. Now, this is correct because if they don't have genetic diversity or genetic variation, then if there is a disease, all of them will be damaged, or all of them will be like ill in the same way because they are all the same. Well, if there's some plants that were genetically different, then there would be a chance that some of them will survive because of the genetic variation. So that is going to be D. 30. Which statement about the human immunodeficiency virus HIV is correct? Antibodies cannot be made. Well, this is incorrect. HIV infections can be treated with antibiotics. Well, of course not. You can't treat virus with antibiotics. You only treat bacteria with antibiotics. So this is incorrect. HIV destroys lymphocytes. Well, this is correct. So our answer will be C. Now 31, which statement about a diploid human cell is correct? There are 22 chromosomes and an X or a Y chromosome. Now this is incorrect because we don't have a X or a Y chromosome, so we have both of them. So B, there are 22 pairs of chromosomes and 2 sex chromosomes. Now this is correct because as we know we have 44 chromosomes for the body cell. Now we know that anaerobic respiration will release in yeast. When we are using yeast in bread making, it will release two products, ethanol and carbon dioxide. Well, now the carbon dioxide has a use actually, and that is why they actually use the yeast. It is to make the bread rise. So carbon dioxide will actually make whatever you are baking, like the bread, it will rise like that. So our answer will be carbon dioxide. Well, ethanol actually is not a useful substance because it's going to be like you can't eat bread with alcohol, so they're going to be baking it and evaporating it from the bread, so you don't even need it. So carbon dioxide is what is needed to make the bread rise. 39. What are the reasons why species become endangered? Now there is several reasons. We're going to be reading them now. Habitat destruction, hunting, and introduced species. Well, this is correct. Now let's read the other options and I'll explain why they're incorrect. Habitat protection, introduced species, and monitoring. Well, these two are actually how to protect the animals. This is not the reason why they're endangered. Maybe this one, but we need all the options to be correct in order to choose it. Habitat destruction, hunting, and captive breeding programs. Now this is actually for the protection of animals or prevention of extinction, so this is incorrect. Now hunting, pollution, and seed banks. Now this is again how to prevent extinction, so the only answer that has all of the reasons is A. Now 40 and the last question. If the nitrate concentration in a lake increases, fish may die due to the events listed. Now we know this is the eutrophication process in the ecology. So let's see the answer. Increased aerobic respiration by decomposers, increased decomposition of dead producers, increased growth of producers, and reduced reduction in dissolved oxygen. Now we know that we're going to be starting off with 3. That's because how will the decomposers even respire without something dying? So we're not going to be choosing anything that has 1 in the beginning. So this is incorrect. And increased decomposition, again, how will it be? What will decompose exactly? Like there's something, an event that has to happen first in order for this one to happen. So we're going to be choosing between C and D actually. Now, let's see. Option C says that 3 is followed by 2. Increased decomposition of dead producers, and then increased aerobic respiration, and 4. Reduction in the dissolved oxygen. Well, this actually makes sense because, first of all, they grew, and then there is increased decomposition of dead producers, and then there is increased aerobic respiration. So this is actually going to be the answer, and D will not work because how will the reduction of dissolved oxygen happen before like all of these processes? So first these processes have to occur before number 4 actually happens. So that was the end of the video. I hope you guys learned something new. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking my videos so you can get more content like this and you can support this channel. Thank you all and good luck with your exams.